Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Today is explanation of upcoming episode Throne of Seal based on novel. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. So let's start. An immense pillar of water splashed across, and along with it, some deep asleep skates swirled. One could see clearly that a green tornado made out of water, and erupting with a gaudy green light above the lake. The surrounding water appeared to be pulled along, unexpectedly turning into a whirlpool. The 10th Holy Guard didn't stop and leave it at that, but let out a terrible hiss instead. Two green lights flickered in the air, and the two daggers were once again waved, producing green glints as another tornado aimed for the lake. The result was catastrophic. Afar, dozens glints of silver light abruptly flashed, rushing at the 10th Holy Guard like silver bolts of lightning. The green soul fire in the eyes of the green skeleton pulsed downwards, and with a dexterous movement, he avoided the silver light closest to him. Immediately, he used his actions to show these soul skates his aerial supremacy. Seemingly totally unaffected by the gravity, his green figure made 9 flips in the air, escaping every attack of a soul skate by a hair's breadth. And furthermore, it was only at a height of 3 meters. In the midst of a dense green light, the soul skates that were frantically chasing after the green figure were already above 100. However, even though they vastly outnumbered him, and moved at such speed, they were still unable to get hold of the 10th Holy Guard. In speed, the 10th Holy Guard was extremely confident. Unless encountering a powerhouse of the 9th step that could take control of the whole area, his speed was at its maximum. With the addition of his unpredictable movements, he managed to often avoid the attacks of the soul skates by a fraction, while slowly getting further and further away from their area. He didn't leave at a fast speed, but he lured a large number of soul skates. The wind and spatial spiritual energy flowing in the air was incomparably fierce, scattering and smashing away the poisonous fog of the swamps. The ability of the soul skates to get rid of any impurity came out perfectly. The poisonous fog was devoid of power in front of them, and every time their encirclement was about to overwhelm the 10th Holy Guard, he broke out of it like a bolt of green lightning in the end. The soul skates were indignant. It was the first time they were confronted with such a provocation. But even more importantly, their offender escaped from all their attempts of encirclement. The dim green light switched to a steady flight, finally flying straight after having continuously dodged the attacks. At this time, the full speed of the 10th Holy Guard emerged. It took only an instant for him to create some distance between himself and the chasing soul skates. With a sweep of green light, he disappeared in a blink of an eye. The group of soul skates was still frantically chasing after him, but were helpless as they saw the green light gaining distance. How is it that it turned out the same as this afternoon? Soul skates were unable to howl, but the killing intent spreading out from them was real. The surrounding vines once again became their victims. After a continuous devastation, seeing that they were unable to keep going after that green figure, they resignedly returned to their habitat. Their returning speed would naturally not be as fast as when chasing after the enemy. One could see that the majority was flying over at a greatly inferior speed. But suddenly, 2 chains of bright golden color appeared from nowhere. That dense golden scenery in the air was similar to bright fireworks, and in its midst, a shade was heading straight at the rear of the group of soul skates. Over 10 meters long, that shade had an indefinite appearance, but the instant she appeared, all the surrounding poisonous gas in the swamps of gloom was dispersed, and only an endless pure and holy light remained. It was as if the sun had descended onto this land of death, clearing away all the filth therein. The green figure that descended was rapidly swirling, like a meat grinder, engulfing at least a dozen soul skates in golden light. All of this happened just too sudden. Although the attack power of the soul skates was great, their perception was only average. When they discovered something was wrong, they were already drawn in that mass. Immediately, an immense ball of light burst out in the sky, and the surrounding illumination gained even further in brilliance. Meanwhile, the 2 figures dropped to the side simultaneously, causing 2 booms to ring out one after another. On one side was a gaudy silver radiance, and on the other, an immense shield, carrying 4 lumps of spatial crystal. Inside that gaudy silver light, the shield was rotating at high speed, releasing a silver spiral of 10 meters diameter. As it knocked into a large area of returning Soulskates, the light radiance on the other side gained in terror. The resplendent golden color mixed with terrible purple lightning, descended like a gigantic bolt of lightning, smashing against a Soulskate. That gigantic golden ball took merely an instant to smash another one of the Soulskates, extinguishing its life energy just like that. Right at this time, the Soulskates in the front showed their responses, counterattacking madly with bursts of silver light. However, at this time, the ball of light that was ascending before, finally fell, welcoming the returning Soulskates. Gaudy bright light became the main ground, and in the midst of violent sounds, the ground shook, vines quivered, and the Soulskates were scattered in all directions by the seismic force of an intense elemental explosion. This led to a very special situation. That huge fallen meteor engulfed at least 30 of the Soulskates, separating the Soulskates that were attacked by surprise before and the ones coming for the rescue in two groups. It perfectly formed a successful block aimed against the silver figures that were coming to rescue the others. Silvery light flickered in the sky repeatedly, while Long Houchen arrived with the aria of the Goddess of Light. His spiritual energy was already focused to its greatest level, the large golden silhouette forming his greatest reliance. Each blow of his was backed by the judgment of the descended Goddess of Light, a terrible existence beyond imagination. Caught off guard, the Soulskates could only rely on the spatial element to barely protect themselves, and still had yet to identify all the enemies. A blue and a red figure appeared this time, bursting with powerful attacks and great might. When the Soulskates caught in the golden spiral would get thrown off, they would already appear completely covered in bruises, making them into extremely easy targets. After unleashing their first attacks, Sima Xian and Wang Yuanyuan still had no reservation, letting the entirety of their strength break out. The fused spiritual stove of godly purple thunder was wielded alongside the gigantic ball of light. Given how terrible Sima Xian's strength became, when his weapon would clash against the opponents, they would be rendered completely helpless, clashing against the weapon as if attracted by it. The Soulskates showed powerful offensive power, but the gigantic ball of light was just too overwhelming. That was a legendary tier weapon, supported by triple exploding abilities. In front of the crush ability, they became unable to resist, while damaging the gigantic ball of light was an impossible feat to them. The spiritual stove of godly purple thunder was a perfect complement to the energetic ball of light, since everything caught inside of the purple thunder would get stunned for a short instant. Even if the Soulskates were magical beasts of the 8th rank, taking on the gigantic ball of light was impossible, and could only result in tragedy for them. The more terrible aspect of the Soulskates was still their communitarianism. The degree of terror from magical beasts of the 8th step living as a group was immense, but individually, their most powerful aspect remained their offensive power. Their defense and technique was almost non-existent, and when ambushed with the calculated attacks from Long Houchen's group, it took only a short while for more than a dozen Soulskates to perish. However, Yating unleashed light meteor right at this moment, resulting in the disappearance of even more of the Soulskates that were rushing towards their direction. Long Houchen, Sima Xian, and Wang Yuanyuan were lit in golden color, from the sharing of damage that came with the soul-linking chains. It wasn't that they were really injured by the Soulskates, but produced due to the clash with them. In case they were inflicted a direct attack from the Soulskates, even with the protection of the Goddess of Light, Long Houchen wouldn't have stayed unharmed. Withdraw. Long Houchen gave a loud shout, while a white glow illuminated the area, sucking in the corpses of the Soulskates in the air. Long Houchen's group of 3 spread their spiritual wings and rose high in the air. During their escape, the 2 holy guards became a convenient diversion for them. At the moment Long Houchen's group of 3 managed to get away, they turned into 2 bolts of light, returning into the eternal melody. Taking no pause, Long Houchen's group of 3 madly rushed away, while trying as best as possible to remain at a high altitude. Right at this time, some change seemed to have occurred, as the lake on the other side suddenly started boiling. Immediately, a thick silvery light shot out, at a speed exceeding even the 10th Holy Guard. The instant it starting flying in their direction, its body disappeared without any trace, appearing in a blink of an eye hundreds meters away. That was instant teleportation. The instant this silver light appeared, snapping noises resounded, spreading out in the whole surrounding. The next instant, a series of cracks occurred in succession. Even more terrifyingly, the entirety of the surrounding poison turned silver, appearing as if nothing else than spatial attribute spiritual energy remained. The worst situation Long Houchen's group anticipated had happened. This group of saw skates indeed had a king amongst them. Long Houchen's group had succeeded in performing a sneak attack and kill a little more than a dozen skates. However, it infuriated this saw skate king, who was now retaliating. Right, saw skates didn't have the ability of flight, but with the use of his spatial teleportation ability, the saw skate king directly appeared in midair, before lashing the large tail on its back, just like an arrow aimed from afar. Being a powerful magical beast of the 10th rank, it was one of the rulers in these swamps, who of course had his own methods to lock down the location of Long Houchen and the other two. And furthermore, it took only 3 flashes for him to have Long Houchen's group in sight. However, also right that instant, the dashing figure of the saw skate king came to a sudden stop. Abruptly turning back, it gave a look to its dwelling place in the opposite direction. Because of this sudden freeze, the appearance of this saw skate king became visible. Its looks were similar to ordinary saw skates, which were close to fishes in this regard. On its head was a large horn, with a sharp blade glinting in silver light on each of its 2 sides. The light emitted from it was even deeper in color than mithril, and even brighter than gold essence. Also, the radiance coming out from its body was colored with a mixture of green and silver. From its abdomen, 2 kinds of wings stuck out. These kinds of wings were still not enough to enable it to fly, but allowed it to glide. Being a powerful magical beast that went through countless evolutions to adapt themselves to the changes of the external world, the saw skate's genes were already not the same anymore, explaining why this saw skate would be capable of gliding. After thousands of years, who could be certain that they would still be unable to grow wings? Behind its horn, the 2 eyes of the saw skate king looked soft and thin, revealing a gloomy expression. Its 2 eyes were scrunched, letting out a bewildered look. Upon reaching its level, a magical beast would have considerable intelligence. Toward Long Houchen's provocation, it was of course acting on behalf of its brothers, but right when it was about to chase after Long Houchen's bunch, it suddenly had a huge sense of crisis. This feeling of crisis wasn't directed at him, but at his kin's habitat. A resonant phoenix cry rang out in the air, and a massive blue flame took flight in the horizon. It was because of its existence that the saw skate king had come to a sudden stop. The next instant, another spatial teleportation occurred, this time not aimed at chasing after Long Houchen's group, but in the direction of its home. These 3 were certainly hateful, but compared to the habitat they had built for the past thousands of years, they were nothing significant. That dazzling blue flame was already perceived as a major threat in the senses of the saw skate king. In case it was let inside of the lake, the consequences weren't anything he dared imagine. However, this move came an instant too late in the end. The instant the saw skate king teleported itself in the range of the lake, a blue phoenix was already falling inside, making way in the clear lake. As a sharp cry came out from the mouth of the saw skate king, its body flashed, entering the lake. But that instant, the water inside was boiling intensely. In total panic, a large amount of saw skates came out from the lake, which immediately turned blue. The splashed water evaporated at terrifying speed, and this originally not so large lake decreased in size very rapidly, gradually revealing the wetland originally concealed in the lake. Shrieking in succession, the saw skate's anger reached its extreme point, but even then, he was still helpless in this situation. The saw skate king was a spatial and wind elemental magical beast, not an ice elemental one. What could it do to make the evaporating water cool down? By chance, this high temperature didn't remain for too long, and after the lake lost a third of its size, the situation finally calmed down. Though, this was closely related to the humidity level in this place, if this happened outside of these swamps, the damage would be even more disastrous. But even so, the loss of a third of the lake was definitely a very bad thing to this group of saw skates. Who knew how long it would take them to gather so much water back there? This lake of clear water was not only used as their habitat, but also as a place where a large amount of water plants were produced. And the first beneficiary of these water plants was the saw skate king. The water in the lake was still boiling, so the saw skates became unwilling to move inside, and the water plants inside were most likely carried away by the boiling current. The Skate King was still in motion, letting out bursts of spatial energy in the air, producing an immense silver net, cutting the air apart. However, even if it was even more powerful, what could he accomplish with air? This was no more than futile venting. In the air, Lin Xin was carried away by Han Yu, while Hao Yue was waiting for them in the sky. Hao Yue was the last trump card kept by Long Haochen, used as their last rearguard and diversion. Long Haochen would have no difficulty to sense his whereabouts due to their blood contract, and to reunite with him. Currently, Lin Xin had a very pale face, dripping in sweat, but he still remained greatly excited. On this afternoon, they were chased like dogs by these Skates, and there was nothing to say about their despair regarding that even. This could at last be seen as a good revenge. All of this went in accordance to their plans, formulated mainly by Long Haochen, and improved with the help of everyone in the team. The three of Long Haochen, Sima Xian, and Wang Yuanyuan were to act as main assault force, with the help of the 11th and 12th Holy Guards. Their goal was to kill as many Skates as possible. Baited out by the 10th Holy Guard, the Skates came out as expected, and Long Haochen was waiting in the air for them to return to their habitat. At this time, their vigilance would be at the lowest, while Long Haochen's group was prepared with their power well preserved, having their greatest techniques ready to be launched. With the 2 Holy Guards and Yating, the 3 of them let out their greatest instantaneous burst of power, managing to kill some of the Skates in an instant, whose strength was their offense with considerable lack of quality in defense. Yating's light meteor was decisive, succeeding in cutting apart the whole group formed by the Skates, and to shake a large amount of them, giving the other 3 plenty of time. And what followed was the climax. Long Haochen had Lin Xin and Han Yu leave in advance, making a detour from the lake, to go to the other side, where the preparations for the Blue Fire Phoenix spiritual stove was prepared. Regardless of whether a Skate King was present, when Long Haochen's signal came, Lin Xin was prepared to act, baiting the greatest enemy force by the way. The one to transmit the signal was the 10th Holy Guard, who had attracted the Skates just before. With the existence of the Eternal Melody, his connection with Long Haochen was preserved without a problem. After taunting the enemies at him, he went back to Lin Xin and Han Yu. The fact the Skate King really appeared immediately alarmed Lin Xin, who had no hesitation to use the Phoenix of Blue Flames at full force, thus why he held nothing back in an all-out attack with it. Then followed the sudden appearance of the terrible Phoenix of Blue Flames, who aimed at the habitat of the Skates. In front of the extremely imposing Phoenix of Blue Flames, the Skate King would have no choice but to confront it, but the results turned out even better than they imagined. The Skate King did not go chase after them. Very rapidly, everyone gathered on Hao Yue's back, and his massive wings unfolded, bringing them through the poisonous gas as he flew afar. Until now, everyone didn't dare relax. The spatial teleportation ability of the Skate King was just too fearful. Should he become determined to chase after them, confronting him wouldn't be easy for the group. Kia didn't join the battle from beginning to end, and remained as a hidden trump of Long Haochen's. One reason was because Kia herself had yet to familiarize with her own ability, and the other because of the power of the sickle of the god of death. In case the Skate King really decided to chase, perhaps Long Haochen and Caia would have to go all out in defense to give everyone the time to escape. This was all hypothetical, and thinking any further about this was futile. As Hao Yue was flying away from the lake, everyone finally eased up from the nervousness they had inside. Lin Xin showed Long Haochen a thumbs-up gesture, before shutting his eyes, suffering just like Sima Xian of the after-effects from his spiritual stove. Han Yu declared with a smile, as expected, Captain showed an incredible foresight. With the Phoenix of Blue Flames aimed at their habitat, these Skates really didn't dare chase us further, and chose to defend their own home. Long Haochen shook his head to respond, this operation was really perilous. The terror of this Skate King went even above my expectations. Although at the time the 3 of them were chased by the Skate King, they didn't have to cross hands for real. Long Haochen got to clearly sense the terror of the Skate King. The spiritual energy in the air was all turned into spatial element, and even a god's chosen one such as him was unable to perceive any light essence. This signified that this Sourcegate King ought to surpass 200,000 units of spiritual energy, making it no ordinary magical beast of the 10th rank. In case such a powerhouse were to put its attention on them, escaping would be a very hard thing for them to do. Until they were safe, Long Houchen's back was still dripping in sweat. Han Yu nodded. This time it was truly filled with great danger. Captain, should we get back to the Tower of Eternity to rest and reorganize? Long Houchen nodded, chanting with no hesitation. A soft golden radiance gradually lit up, enveloping everyone in its scope. Showing his dependability, Han Yu also released the ability from his own spiritual stove, enveloping all his comrades with it. All of a sudden, Long Houchen's pupils contracted, and his incantation became hurried. In the meanwhile, Hao Yue let out a roar, unleashing multicolored glints that covered everyone simultaneously. Immediately, his 5 heads were raised upwards and snarled, unleashing a terrifying and mystical pentacolored radiance. Pentacolored essence of disorder. A silvery light appeared in the air silently, clashing against the pentacolored essence of disorder that slightly delayed it. The next instant, Long Houchen and his comrades disappeared, already teleported as only a glint of light remained behind. That delayed silver glint shook Hao Yue with force, using the upper part of its horn, full of sinister intent. And on the previous location of Long Houchen's group, countless silver glints appeared, frantically entangling in the air. The silvery silhouette disappeared in the air in the next instant, before reappearing 3 seconds later. Its aim was to follow Long Houchen's group using its spatial powers and kill them, but it unfortunately failed at its attempt. Right, the one chasing was precisely the Sourcegate King. Being a magical beast of the 10th rank, its perception was even more terrifying than what Long Houchen's group could imagine. After the surrounding air was filled with spatial essence, everything in its scope was under his control. Having his habitat attacked, the Sourcegate King admittedly avoided taking risks, but after ensuring all his kin were safe, the Sourcegate King made a thorough search. After making sure that no other threat was present, the Sourcegate King chased after them, full of rancor. When coming at them, it even relied on repeated spatial teleportations. If Han Yu's suggestion came a little later, perhaps they would have been inflicted by the terrifying attack of the Sourcegate King. And the same would have happened if Long Houchen's reaction was just a bit slower. And another important thing was that Hao Yue had the Qinary elemental essence of disorder prepared beforehand, which burst out instantly at this time, stalling some precious time for the group. At the time Long Houchen brought everyone back to the Tower of Eternity, he found out that the clothes inside his armor were completely drenched in sweat. The instant right before was truly perilous. He sensed death being even closer to them in this adventure than the time they went up against Arbao. Even if Arbao was even stronger, he had yet to break through the 9th step, and those demon hunter removers were the same. However, this Sourcegate King was not only equivalent to a human powerhouse of the 9th step, it was also an expert in offense. In case his attack really succeeded, none of them would have made it out. In front of absolute strength, even divine tools would be helpless. The expressions on their faces were particularly unsightly, especially for Long Houchen, whose fatal mistake could have been the reason for the death of their entire team. Everyone went silent, and everyone seemed drenched in sweat. No one would be fearless in front of death, especially when put in such a close distance from it. Long Houchen clenched his teeth tightly, remaining silent for a long time. Appearing dispirited, Hao Yue was crawling on the floor. It was fortunate that at the time he launched Essence of Disorder, Han Yu had released the formidable power of the spiritual stove of Blessing of Light, ensuring him a rapid recovery. Otherwise, his overdraft from the frenetic release of such a powerful spell would have become even greater. Essence of Disaster was originally an innate magic of Hao Yue, with undoubtable power, but its weak point remained that no matter how strong Hao Yue would be, unleashing this spell would still nearly exhaust all his spiritual energy. Still, that previous blow revealed the real strength Hao Yue attained after evolving. When attacked by the penta-elemental essence of disaster, even a powerhouse of the 9th step was delayed for over 5 seconds. A spatial attribute user such as the Sourcegate King was unable to struggle free from the effects of the spell, only keeping itself unharmed at most. Sorry everyone. I need to review my decision. My planning was not thorough enough, putting our group in great danger. As captain, the responsibility falls on me. Boss, don't be like this. Who could expect that the Swordsman King would be that powerful? While bearing the backlash from his spiritual stove, Sima Xian said in a hurry. Han Yu also nodded, that's right. All of this went beyond our expectations. It is all our responsibility, don't just blame yourself. Letting out a bitter smile, Long Haochen shook his head, no. As the captain, I still brought you there despite realizing that we might possibly encounter a powerful Swordsman King. This was already a mistake. Had someone have been lost today, I would forever be unable to forgive myself. I am the one at wrong. As punishment for it, I will renounce all of the profit and the forest boa pills that we will have obtained from the trip here. Captain, the one at wrong should be me. It was all because of my selfishness, so I, although being staunch, Wang Yuan couldn't help but leak out red traces on her eye socket. The one who benefited from the killing of Swordsman the most was her, and it was precisely because she was lacking in spatial attribute equipment that Long Haochen undertook this venture. Revealing a slight smile, Long Haochen raised his hand to stop Wang Yuan from saying more. All right, we can at last be considered safe. I will now definitely be even more careful when planning our next course of action. Everyone should go have a good rest. After these 2 teleportations, we will need to stay here for a long time before coming out. This should avoid encountering the Swordsman King waiting in ambush for us to come out. In particular Lin Xin and Sima Xian, who suffered after effects from their spiritual stoves, or Hao Yue, who needed time to recover after unleashing essence of disaster, and even Long Haochen needed time to rest. In fact, when using Storm of Blades, he had also been using storing power in combination, and although it didn't use his sword intent, the consumption of his spiritual energy was massive. Han Yu's spiritual stove of light blessing was stopped before ending due to the teleportation, so everyone was clearly somewhat beat. Although they had failed to find traces of the Devil Snake clan, their gains were still abundant, be it from the forest boars or the Swordsman, they were all rare treasures. Long Haochen was certain that since the devil snake god Andromalius was willing to spend so much time in these swamps of gloom, it must be that something attracted him here. He couldn't possibly be unaware of the existence of the habitat of the Swordsman here, or about these creatures that targeted Long Haochen's group. Although this enterprise was dangerous, the result was undoubtedly fabulous. Having gathered 11 Swordsman in total, making 1 piece of legendary equipment per person should be possible relying on it. Thus, Long Haochen was currently not the least bit worried. Their reward was already plentiful, and the gains they could make by killing devil snakes would be even greater. In case the enemy was undefeatable, ending their trip of slaughter here, it was already pretty okay. From their departure from the Temple Alliance this time, the greatest loss was regarding Kia's memories, otherwise their objectives as a whole were already reached, as Kia's awakening as a God-chosen one was already complete. The Tower of Eternity rapidly quietened, and everyone started cultivating. Long Haochen learned a lesson from his encounter with the Swordsman King. He had to be even more prudent from then onwards. This time of rest and reorganization took no less than 3 days. Only when Sima Xian and Lin Xin recovered from the backlash of their respective spiritual stoves, did they finally return to the swamps of gloom. Long Haochen took the initiative to transport himself back to the swamps. He could be regarded as the cornerstone of the teleportation of their group. His location would be the one where his comrades would be teleported. When returning in the swamps of gloom, Long Haochen tried to conceal his own aura as much as possible while blocking the poison, keeping distance from the habitat of the Swordsman to the furthest possible extent. With Hao Yue remaining in the Tower of Eternity, Long Haochen was able to trigger his blood contract to summon himself at his side at any time, which was a lot faster than a teleportation through the Eternal Melody. Even if the Swordsman King were to reappear, he would have the time to escape. The Swordsman King didn't turn out to be patient enough to lay at wait in this place, so Long Haochen smoothly flew away. The poisonous gas in the air was warded off with his armor of spiritual energy, letting out, puff, sounds repeatedly. Nonetheless, the current Long Haochen having 3 spiritual cavities, although the light essence in the swamps was not plentiful, his recovery still counteracted the consumption from resisting the poisonous fog. Moving as one person was bound to be always a lot easier than in group, and with the lesson from the Sourcegate King, Long Houchen managed to smoothly leave rapidly by himself. After no less than half an hour of flight, when reaching a far distance from the Sourcegate's territory, he summoned his comrades back here. At the time Hao Yue's massive stature appeared in the swamps of gloom, Long Houchen's line of sight finally cleared up. Little Purple's long whale-like absorption cleared up most of the poisonous fog as he sucked it in. All this poison thus rapidly dispersed from their sight. Recover your spiritual energy, everyone. Invoking the rippling light, Long Houchen guarded the place. The Tower of Eternity was after all a place where the majority of the group was unable to recover spiritual energy, and even if this place was lacking, various elements were still present. Sitting on Hao Yue's back, everyone tried to recover their spiritual energy. Little Light and Little Flame respectively released abilities close to spiritual gathering halo. Aside from Wang Yuanyuan, the whole group recovered at considerable speed. As for Chen Ying'er, she didn't participate from beginning to end, and naturally didn't have any need to recover. With a cry of alarm, Chen Ying'er attracted Long Houchen's attention. What's the problem, Ying'er? Chen Ying'er was holding the treasure pig on her hands. Boss, see. This girl was very proud to the core, and still calling Long Houchen by his name, or the appellation of captain. At the time, they just became demon hunters. But as the team kept maturing, when seeing everything Long Houchen did for the sake of the team, she started to sincerely call him as captain, even though Long Houchen was actually a bit younger than her. Long Houchen then discovered that in her hands, the mirror image treasure pig was letting out a discreet brilliance of gold color, only discernible very faintly. This is. Long Houchen looked at Chen Ying'er with some hesitation. Chen Ying'er's left hand was in contact with the bottom of her forehead, and a little twisted ripple appeared on the pig. Immediately, McDull's eyes lit up, letting out a similar kind of radiance. He told me that he found some good thing. Right there. There, Chen Ying'er pointed her hand to a certain direction. Only then did Long Houchen remember that this mirror image treasure pig also had a treasure hunting ability. Nonetheless, he couldn't help but feel somewhat unconvinced. After all, in their previous trip to the illusory paradise, he didn't see any display of this capability from the little guy. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.